For those of you who don't watch my Hermitcraft series, this is my current base. As you can see, we have got a big hole in the ocean that I cleared out, we've got a guardian farm in the center, and underneath we've got a massively cleared area for all of the storage system and everything like that. But as you can probably tell, you know, we have quite a lot of water lying around. And that got me thinking, wouldn't it be really cool if we had some hidden entrances that we could also place underneath the ocean? So I got to work and I came up with a couple of designs. And here is our sample ocean. As you can see, it's not much of an ocean. It's more like a paddling pool, to be honest with you. But this is what we're going to be testing the ocean door on, and underneath it we've got the ocean door itself. And as you can see, that thing is really, really compact. Considering how much actually has to go into this, it fits inside a small footprint. Now up at the top here we have got all of the gravel. That's because the ocean floor is generally made out of gravel, and if we flick this lever right here, obviously this is our test input, you'd use something completely different, but if we flick this lever you can see that the gravel drops down, and then instantly this fence gate is pushed across, which means that the water doesn't flow down into our base, because that would be pretty terrible. Now getting out of this thing is also really simple. All we have to do is stand on this block, give it a flick, and we are pushed out straight away. I mean, did you see how fast that was? We just get shunted out onto the ocean. But if the previous design didn't exactly float your boat, then this design right here might be the one for you. As you can see, we've kind of ditched the triple piston extender and we've moved over into the standard trapdoor setup, where these blocks get retracted back, pulled out the way, and then we have this setup right here which extends out our fence gate and then of course powers it so that it actually remains open. But down at the bottom here we've got the exciting bit, because to make sure that we actually exit our trapdoor in a timely and awesome looking fashion, we have got a slime block launcher down at the bottom here, and if we hit this button you can see everything opens up, we get launched out into the ocean, and then everything closes behind us, and no water fell in due to the fact that we're using that fence gate. I quite like this design. But you see, it doesn't stop there for the previous design, because if you want to be really boring and you want to have the most boring version, one that doesn't push you upwards, one that doesn't launch you out using slime blocks, then you can just take off that bottom section and you end up with something that looks like this. A very small little circuit that does a pretty good job of everything. If we just walk inside and hit the button, you can see we just get pushed out, and then there we go. We kind of have to float up and do some wiggling around, but it does work. But everyone likes being launched out. I mean, let's be honest here. So those are my 3 different designs for my different ocean doors that allow me to get down into my ocean base. And now I'm going to show you how to build them, but I wouldn't click away from the video just yet, because I know you're about to do that. At the end of the video, I'll show you some underwater hidden inputs. It's going to be interesting. To build design number 1, you are going to need a 4x3 area. I kind of hadn't realized how compact this thing actually was. I probably should have shouted about that a little bit more in the early section of the video. But anyway, we're going to need 2 sticky pistons and then a regular piston facing upwards. That's going to be our triple piston extender. And then we're just going to create a little pulse extender down at the bottom right here with redstone dust, a repeater set to 4 ticks and a repeater set to 1 ticks, which is just going to mean that that piston stays extended for longer, because obviously this one's powering it for longer, this one powers it instantly. But then we're going to run redstone going up like this. We're going to have a repeater set to 2 ticks running into that block right there. We're going to have an observer running across like this. This is going to be our falling edge monostable circuit, and that's kind of going to go across like that. And we're going to have a repeater set to 3 ticks running into that block, and that should be a full double piston extension. So you can see that piston up at the top right there is being double extended. Now we just need to power that top piston. To do that, all we have to do is place a couple blocks going up like this, and we're going to have a sticky piston facing downwards with a redstone block on its face, and a repeater running into this block right here. So this is actually going to be the input circuit running up and across like that. So we're going to run this all the way up like that, and we're going to have redstone dust right there, a redstone torch, and then we're going to have a repeater set to 4 ticks, and that's going to be running into a block, and that is purely going to be to power our fence gate so that it actually stays open. The thing that's going to be powering our top piston is going to be this repeater right here, and that should be everything completed. So if we do that, then we should see that we get the whole extension circuit. Now what we have to do is the circuit for our fence gate extension. First thing that we do is we take a repeater output from this block right here, which runs across into a block with a redstone torch and then a sticky piston facing across like that, and that is where our fence gate is going to be going. Then we just have to go underneath. We're going to place a block with a redstone torch right there. And then we're going to have a repeater set to 4 ticks running into that block right there. And that should be everything. So we should see it retract really quickly, and then it extends relatively slowly. So now we can actually start the process of placing in the gravel. So we can place in gravel going across like this. Obviously this is where our ocean is, so we should expect to see some gravel down there as well. We'll be able to place gravel in every single one of these locations, and wherever there's like a block missing, you're just going to have to place a block underneath it. But the one important thing to note about this is that obviously you can't place a block here, because then you're not going to be able to get out from down there. You're not going to be able to get out from underneath your door. So you're going to have to place in a sign or some form of block that you can walk through, and then place your gravel on top of that one. And that pretty much covers it. So there we go. That is everything finished for design number 1. If you want to build the design with the launcher, or if you want to just build the simple one, you have to follow along with this, because it applies to both. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to place 2 sticky pistons facing across just like that, on that level right there, and then we're going to have a sticky piston facing upwards, and we're also going to have another sticky piston which is going to be facing across right here, and that's going to be for our fence gates. Now behind that sticky piston we're going to have a redstone torch. We're then going to have a piece of redstone dust down at the bottom right here. We're going to have a block up like this, and then a repeater set to 2 ticks. That's going to be going into that block right there with redstone dust on top. Then we're going to do the pulse extender, which involves a repeater running out like this, and then a block up like that, and some redstone dust right there. And believe it or not, that is pretty much all of the circuitry for the build. There are, however, a few little details I just want to mention. Number 1, obviously we have to place in our fence gate, and this block right here is the one that's going to be flush with the ocean floor. Now an extra piece of circuitry that I personally like to have involved is this little bit right here, which makes sure that our fence gate is actually powered and actually stays open, because otherwise you're going to have to manually open this thing up every single time that you want to use it, and it's going to get really frustrating. Other than that, all we have to do is run some form of input into this block right here, and we can do that just using this redstone torch, which means that by default our door is going to be closed, and then all we have to do is just place in a couple blocks like this. We can place in a button on that block, we press that button, and there we go. We now have a working system. If there was water above us, we would have floated upwards and we would have gone into the ocean. But I think all of us will agree that that is really, really boring. I mean, I discussed this earlier on in the episode. So we're going to change up the input. We're actually going to place the redstone torch underneath this redstone torch right here. We're then going to have some redstone dust off to one side, and that's going to be right there. We're going to have 2 blocks and then another block right there, redstone dust, and a repeater set to 4 ticks, and a repeater set to 3 ticks with a sticky piston facing upwards and a slime block on its face. Now, if we stand on top of this, place in some form of wooden button. I'll go through the inputs later on, but for the time being, we're going to be using a wooden button, and we give it a press. You can see that's much better. Launched out into the ocean, ready to do your ocean-y things. Now onto the hidden inputs, and our first little hidden input mainly applies to design number 1, simply because design number 1 relies on a lever input. So it has to be a constant input. It can't be like a pulse or anything like that, because then it won't work. So this is going to be a T flip-flop input, and the way that we're going to do it is using a redstone torch key. So obviously when we place in a redstone torch underwater, it gets broken, and we can actually use that to create a redstone output. All we're going to do is place a sticky piston with a redstone block in its face underneath where you can place a redstone torch on the side of a block. You can see then we get a redstone output. If we place it on top like that, nothing happens. It has to be on the side of the block right there, but then you can see that this thing quickly fires. So all we have to do is actually take the output from this and run it into a sticky piston, and we actually get ourselves a T flip-flop straight away. So when we place in this redstone torch right here, you can see that the pulse is actually so short that it causes that piston to fire out its block, which means that we can toggle the input. Now all we have to do is make it toggleable from the inside, and the way that we're going to do that is run an output from this thing out into a monostable circuit, and that's just going to run across like this with redstone dust right there and a repeater into that sticky piston, and then we can go, oh, I want to open it up, and that will do it. And then you go, okay, I want to close it, that will do that. And then if I want to open it from the outside, I just place in my redstone torch over there, and I can drop in, and then I can close it up behind me. Perfect. It's an awesome little system. Design number 2 is a tiny bit simpler because of course it relies on a pulse. We don't need to create that T flip-flop circuit, so I would highly suggest using an item-based system. Something that you throw on the ground, it gets picked up, and then that is the input to your circuit. So we're going to place in a block, a hopper, a chest, and then we're going to have a minecart rail and a hopper minecart right there, and we're going to take a comparator output from this hopper, and that's going to go across like this, and that's going to be our redstone inputs. But the thing is that we do kind of need to do a little bit of extra work because that pulse is going to be very, very short. So what we're going to do is create a pulse extender, which will allow us to extend out the pulse, meaning that the trapdoor actually stays open for a decent length of time. And then we just have to kind of run that across a little bit like this, and we're going to have that run into the input of the circuit, just like that, with some redstone dust right there. That will power that redstone torch, and that should be everything done. So if we throw down like a chest or anything like that, then this thing opens up, and we can drop on through. We've got plenty of time, then it closes up behind us, and the same thing goes for obviously the button on the way out. We can still use that thing. And all of this will definitely work for the design with the slime blocks as well. So there we go. Those are my hidden inputs for our underwater hidden entrances. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please sure to hit that like button, and if you really loved it, then make sure to subscribe. But thanks for watching, guys. This has been Mumbo. I'm out. I'll see you later. Oh, and by the way, check out the latest film on the filming channel. I posted it on Saturday. It's a good one. I enjoyed it anyway.